I'm reacting to your Friday Night SmackDown Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. And this is just water, I promise. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. I drink water out of this and I spilled some, all right? I'm sorry. Now, if you are looking for our review of this particular episode of Friday Night SmackDown, it's already up and available on the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. It's the middle of WrestleMania week on the Patreon, so we're uploading a bunch of watch-alongs of some of the most famous WrestleMania matches of all time that you got to vote on. But you're also getting the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, podcast early, all the usual stuff. So go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm very confident that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's read your stupid shit. It's a huge disservice to not put any of these tag teams on the WrestleMania card. You could have done a 5-team gauntlet to not only showcase the tag team division of SmackDown, but to get the Street Profits their much deserved spot on the card. Raiders versus New Day is just meh to me. Out of all of the things that happened on this episode of Friday Night SmackDown, this is the thing that's got me the most heated because it makes absolutely zero sense that this is what they're going with. The WWE spent like 7 months rehabilitating, resuscitating with tender love and care a dead-in-the-water tag team division. They were giving these tag teams matches, screen time, character development, the ability to cut promos in the ring, backstage. They brought in the Motor City freaking machine guns. They even inserted the Bloodline at the height of their main event run into the tag team division. They did everything right, every single step along the way. They nailed it, and they're fumbling at the 1-yard line. Make that make sense to me. No disrespect to the New Day and the War Raiders because it's not their fault, but their match does not deserve to be at WrestleMania. Not because of the talent, but because the WWE gave zero shits about those titles and their division for the better part of like 8 months. So make it make sense as to why the division that WWE put no effort into is the one getting the WrestleMania shine, and the division that they put so much time into and they deserve their WrestleMania spot. They earned their WrestleMania spot. They're the ones being left off. I do not get this. Every single tag team of the Fantastic 10 that the SmackDown division has brought towards the light of this awesome tag team division, all of them, every single one of those tag teams deserves a WrestleMania spot in this year's Mania more than War Raiders and the New Day individually. I know there's still one more episode to maybe throw a Hail Mary. Maybe there's a whole bunch of shenanigans in the scheduled tag team championship match between the Street Profits and Motor City Machine Guns, where it leads to maybe like a ladder match, but it looks like they've moved the Garzas to a different storyline. So I don't know if they're even going to be involved in the mix. Regardless, I just think that this is an unforced error, an unnecessary mistake, because they did 99% of the job correctly and they fucked it up with the 1% at the end. The women's tag team division in mid-card division is in absolute shambles, and tonight didn't make it better. I was also made so upset by this. This episode of SmackDown really just triggered me in so many different ways. Not just the men's tag team division, what's going on there, but you nailed it on the head here with the women's tag team division just being a complete mess and the women's mid-card being treated like the biggest afterthought on the main roster right now. You have a women's tag team gauntlet that went way too long. I'm not opposed to the women getting that long, but when you're just trying to fast forward the tender love and care of a division a week and a half before WrestleMania, it's transparent as hell. And it was made even the more clear when most of those tag teams just didn't feel like they even belong there because they weren't even tag teams. You're just putting random women together last minute and saying, this is our women's tag team division. It's a shame too, because I know that Lyra and Bayley versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez is going to be a banger of a match, but WWE just like didn't try. That's the best way to put it. They did not try or gave an ounce of fucks about the women's tag team division. It's just a match for the sake of a match, and that is a disservice all around to the talented women that are going towards this match. I just needed them to care a little bit, but since they took the tag titles off of Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill and that whole saga going on. WWE just sort of threw their hands up with the tag team division and just didn't try. That's the best way to say it. They just didn't try. And last minute, they're handing in their assignment incredibly rushed. And don't get me started about the women's mid-card titles. Like, these things are about to go into their first WrestleMania, and they couldn't feel like a bigger afterthought. Explain to me why the women's Intercontinental Champion is teaming up with the person she was literally just having a match with to go after the tag titles. That makes no sense. Explain to me why the women's US Champion is losing in a stupid count-out because she was talking to the commentators too long. I don't know what they're doing over there. I'm sorry, I usually don't complain about WWE that much. In fact, I usually get people angry with me because they say that I don't complain enough, that I glaze WWE too much. But here we are. We're being a negative Nancy this video. The Garzas are so underrated. I'm always looking forward to their matches. I think at this point, I've already beaten the drum enough of I told you so. For the past better part of 8 months, I've been telling people that give the Garzas a chance. They're very good. They've demonstrated it now in the ring. And I gotta tell you, I am intrigued. I am at the very least hooked as to see what's about to happen with them, what's about to happen with Berto, and where will Garza lie in between Berto and Santos Escobar. How does Rey Fenix get involved in all of this? I'm in. They're doing a really great job at making us care about this tag team that a year ago most people didn't even know were being a tag team down in NXT. And this is because the WWE did such a great job of building and developing the SmackDown tag team division. They did such a good job. They made you care about Los Garzas, and they're all being left off of WrestleMania for what? I don't know. Please, God, no. I know this might be the direction they want to go, but why tease Nick Aldis versus Randy just for this? Listen, I still think that Nick Aldis versus Randy Orton was the most WrestleMania worthy option, and I think it might still be on the table. The issues between Randy and Nick Aldis did not get sorted out in this promo because we had Solo Sikoa interrupt everything. However, Randy versus Solo also makes sense. As unappealing as it is, it does make sense, and it might be the best available option for both guys. Listen, I hear a lot of people saying that, yeah, Solo deserves to be on the WrestleMania card because of what a great 2024 that he had. However, I'm not blaming Solo. This is WWE's fault for putting Solo on the back burner for 4 months at this point, basically being a complete joke and an afterthought after Raw Netflix. If they wanted us to care about Solo Sikoa on the WrestleMania card, maybe WWE themselves should have given a shit about Solo Sikoa over the past 3 months. I'm not against Solo versus Randy. I'm just against the idea of taking this guy that WWE had no interest in clearly over the last several months and saying, that's Randy's opponent. I get it. Probably best available option, but maybe WWE, maybe you should actually give a little bit of love to these characters as opposed to just giving them a quick and a shine right before WrestleMania like you're doing with Solo and like you're doing with the women's tag team division. The only person Randy should fight is Nick Aldis. Okay, so I made the case that it makes sense for it to be Randy versus Solo, get both of those guys on the card. Solo is probably the safest option for Randy. Solo can take a loss, Randy can win. Nick Aldis kind of fits that description as well. Nick Aldis can lose to Randy and gain nothing but respect from the fans because at the end of the day, for the majority of the fans, it's just a general manager getting in the ring with one of the most dangerous WWE superstars of all time. And Randy can also get his win against Nick Aldis. I think the more glitzy, the more WrestleMania worthy option would have been Nick Aldis. This is unreal. This is so good. Oh my God, dude. Here we go.
Bang! There it is.
That's what we live for. That's a good moment. That was beautiful. Psych! That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club WrestleMania edition, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week we're looking at Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, Bloodline Rules WrestleMania 40. God damn it, it's just as good as I remembered. The legendary match between The Rock and Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. The technical classic between Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19, the WrestleMania 23 Money in the Bank ladder match, and part 3 of the trilogy that was Stone Cold versus The Rock at WrestleMania 19. You'll be getting all of these, plus all the other matches that we've already done, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the currently ongoing and almost done Undertaker WrestleMania match review, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble reviews that we're doing, and so much more, all over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This is all content that we can never upload to YouTube because it would just get blocked due to copyright anyway because we use real footage. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. I am confident that if you try it even for just 1 month for this WrestleMania season, that you're going to fall in love with the content and the community. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Now let's get you back to the video. Paradoxically, the disastrous segment of Tiffany and Charlotte has restored the modicum of interest to what is by far the worst feud of this road to WrestleMania. This week's interactions were fun, and there was a sense of reason to hate each other. I think that the best way to put this is that this might be a case of mission failed successfully. Everything that they tried to do last week failed miserably in the best kinds of ways. It failed so bad. The segment was so cringe that people are in, including myself, because I want to see, can two women that need to work together to put on a great match, can they work together in the wake of seemingly actually hating each other? That to me is a great storytelling on its own, even if it's the unintended type of storytelling. I'm in, like I'm legitimately in. And here's the thing, I was always in for Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton as an actual like physical affair. We always knew this match was going to be amazing. And I think the one thing that I'm kind of holding on to, with a lot of people saying that Charlotte is selfish and doesn't want to make Tiffany look good in this road to this match, is the fact that Charlotte is egotistical enough to want to have the best match of the night, which in turn means that she has to work well with Tiffany Stratton. So that to me is my overall hope for this match. But in terms of now the like last 2 weeks, this beatdown from Charlotte to Tiffany, the beatdown in the parking lot, I thought that it was great. I think that they're doing a good enough job to, like you said, bring a modicum of interest to this feud. I'm in. Not really how I feel about tonight's SmackDown, considering we're a week until WrestleMania, but I really loved how Cody got to show off the WWE Championship belt in every era that Cena was in, especially the spinner logo belt. They need to bring that back. What do you think? You want them to bring back the spinner belt back? Look, as somebody that is obviously a big fan of the spinner belt, the answer is hell no. The spinner belt is a relic of its time. It is a relic of the time where things like Pimp My Ride were big, where spinner rims were a big thing in the culture of the 2000s. It's not a thing anymore. Don't bring the spinner belt back. Nowadays, it would be goofy, but here's the thing. Sometimes bringing back the goofy things from the past is cool in the present. I don't think the spinner belt is one of those things, though. I think we can keep that as a background prop. Something big better happen during the Raw tag title match, like a Big E return, because if not, there's absolutely no logical reason to sacrifice the SmackDown tag team division for this. I agree. And that is, to me, what I'm latching onto. And it's not good to latch onto a match in a feud that has no story and no hype behind it and trying to create this grandiose, cool twist that could happen at WrestleMania for the justification of it. Because if that grandiose, crazy twist doesn't happen, then I'm just going to be left holding my dick being incredibly disappointed. The only way that the New Day and the War Raiders is WrestleMania worthy is if it's the actual return of Big E. And I'm talking the return of Big E, not just Big E making an appearance. I'm talking the return of Big E for this to be a WrestleMania worthy match, a WrestleMania match that is being rushed out of seemingly nowhere, being created and being used to push aside and cast aside the tag team division that actually deserves to be on the show. They need to fundamentally change something with this match. I'm hoping all of the tag teams interrupt the match and Aldis, being on brand, comes out and announces a match for Mania. It would be on brand for Nick Aldis to not be prepared for the show that he's supposed to be preparing for. We know that on every episode of Friday Night SmackDown, Nick Aldis doesn't come with a main event. He just sort of hopes that people fight and he makes the main event on the fly. Maybe that will happen with the tag team division. I'm not a fan of creating hope and desire out of something that might not happen. All right. If it happens, I'm happy. But right now, my mind mind and my mindset is on the road of the SmackDown Tag Team division is missing WrestleMania, and that's a huge disservice. If we end up getting it last minute, great, I'm in, thank God. The women's tag team build for WrestleMania is a prime example of how, quote, let Papa H cook doesn't justify the poor booking decisions. It may be an awesome match. However, not only did it come at the cost of the IC title defense, but it also highlighted the lack of depth of the women's tag team division. I mean, they couldn't build any tag team in the time of 1 year. Hell, even Kabuki Warriors versus Liv and Raquel with no build would have been a better scenario. This is not it. I literally agree with everything that you're saying. I think it's fundamentally a flaw of WWE's booking that in the wake of everything that happened between Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi, the fact that those three carried that tag team division into multiple PLEs, the fact that they weren't able to build a viable tag team, an actual viable tag team for WrestleMania season, to me is just insane. And like you said, to create a viable tag team that had some star power behind it and Lyra and Bayley, you had to sacrifice the Intercontinental Championship. By the way, last week's Monday Night Raw Intercontinental Championship match between Lyra and Bayley, that should have been on WrestleMania. It was so damn good, and it had a better build than this. Look, you guys know how I feel about the let Papa H cook. I like the saying, it's just that so many people use it as a shield to allow for bad storytelling, bad booking, and allowing for the building of mediocre divisions like we're seeing here today. If you're saying let Papa H cook after that Gauntlet match and let Papa H cook after what happened with Chelsea Green, look, I don't know what to tell you. You're brainwashed at this point. Getting the Berto face turn before Austin Theory would be wild. And I'm in. Listen, I think Berto, to me, is the new Austin Theory. Berto is the guy I care about. Berto is the guy whose story development and morality change shift that I want to see. Austin Theory, I'm sorry, that boat has left the dock. That had months to be able to happen, and they chose not to do it, and my interest level for that is down here. Berto, this is the new guy. This is the guy that I'm telling you to buy the stocks on low so that once he explodes, all right, you become a Berto millionaire. Not having the SmackDown tag titles or the women's IC and US titles on the Mania card is criminal. Okay, SmackDown tag titles, I've already explained. The Intercontinental Championship and the US Championship, I understand because they haven't done a good job of building the division, which makes me question why is the Raw tag titles on the card? Why are the women's tag titles on the card when those two have also equally been terribly as booked as the women's Intercontinental Championship and the US title? I think the answer is that those tag team titles get more people on the card, but it is a shame, specifically with the women's mid card, that you've had it now for months to build a viable division and you weren't able to. And now because of that, because of poor booking of the division, lack of storytelling, lack of, frankly, care, they're missing their first WrestleMania. And that to me hurts the prestige of these titles. It was underwhelming for the second to last SmackDown before WrestleMania, hoping they have a strong final builds next week for all matches and storylines eventing at Mania. The build to this year's WrestleMania has definitely been questionable at times. This episode of Friday Night SmackDown, this close to WrestleMania, was bafflingly bad. Now, I don't want to sit here and compare this to last year's WrestleMania where we were getting heaters between The Rock, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes. I can't compare it to that because it's impossible to compare it to last year's build. Last year's build is actually like generational. Like if you compare this to most WrestleManias, it's pretty on par. But this episode was so weak, and the only reason I can think of it being so weak is that the space between WrestleMania and Elimination Chamber was maybe just too long. Maybe having WrestleMania this deep into April as opposed to having it, like the first weekend of April might be a mistake. Having those extra 2 episodes of Raw or SmackDown, we might be stretching things out way too thin, and eventually it's going to lead to subpar bad episodes of SmackDown like this one was. Here's mine. Aleister Black's return is on WrestleMania, and he's going to fight against Randy Orton. I know some people want to see it on SmackDown, but it's going to be a huge return and a pop. I don't think so, mostly because I feel like Randy needs to face somebody that he can beat. I don't think that Randy should be going up against somebody that he should lose to, because if it's Rusev, if it's Aleister Black, Black. I want those guys winning when they debut. I don't want them losing to Randy Orton, and I definitely don't want to see Randy Orton lose at this year's WrestleMania. That's why I thought that Nick Aldis, who Randy Orton would logically beat, or even hell, even though I don't like it, Solo Sikoa, kind of makes more sense because it allows Randy to beat those guys. What's the point of these gauntlet matches if you're always going to start with your basic two baby faces who will overcome the odds and run the whole gauntlet every effing time? On a semi-related note, the title should definitely not go to Lyra and Bayley. They're bland as F together. Well, it doesn't make sense for the titles to go to them. Like, they literally just came together like a week ago. They should be focusing on the development of the mid-card, the development of the IC title, and if you put the tag titles on them, I feel like that's going to halt that. In terms of the gauntlet match, I kind of like agree with you. I mean, it's not the worst trope. Like, wrestling has like more annoying tropes than, you know, the baby faces overcoming the odds. Look, it at least allowed the most talented women in that gauntlet match, and Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, to have the most amount of ring time, which I think is a, you know, it's a silver lining. I understand, but at least it's silver. I know this wasn't the position that we wanted for Drew at Mania, but this feud and story are slowly winning me over the past couple of weeks. Also, it being a street fight adds another element to the match, which will help Drew and Damian elevate each other even more. I think that this storyline and this feud and this match going into WrestleMania is the epitome of turning, you know, lemons into lemonade. I feel like they made the best of a situation that nobody wanted. Like, why did we have Drew McIntyre yap about Roman Reigns and the bloodline for 3 months for it to absolutely lead to nothing and lead to Damian Priest? That just absolutely makes no sense. But here we are, right? This is the dish that we're getting. This isn't changing. But at the very least, they've garnished up this dish real nice to the point where it looks like a really appetizing meal, and it's one of the better looking matches at WrestleMania. And yeah, making this a Sin City street fight, I really do think is going to help elevate this match, and this could end up being the best match of the night. The only good thing about SmackDown today was that we got this new meme reaction. I don't have any comments on this. Yeah, this is amazing. Naomi has been carrying this feud on her back with her character work alone. She needs to win at WrestleMania to cement her new heel character. Papa H has fumbled one too many heel characters that had the potential to be great. Most recently, Nakamura and Chad Gable. Oh man, I do think that we're in a bit of a rock and a hard place, right? I feel like Jade Cargill in her, I guess, like big singles reveal, big singles run, should probably be winning, considering, you know, she's clearly the one that's being set up to be a big star in the women's main event scene. But my God, I don't know if WWE was expecting this Naomi to be as good as she has been. That being said, I will say, I feel like this Naomi has been good enough that she can actually survive a loss. I don't think that this is going to be a Nakamura situation where if he loses all ounce of aura and threat. I feel like Naomi, with how unhinged she is, how good she's working this character, in the event that she were to lose, I think that she can continue to be a pivotal role in the main event scene in the women's, because they don't have a character like Naomi. Naomi is one of one. She is the only Naomi in the division, and that to me is going to make her very, very valuable in the women's main event scene. Horrible filler episode. The road to WrestleMania is just too long. Oh, yeah, we were just talking about this. Way too long. This deep into April, Easter weekend, I just put this back in early April, April 2nd, April 3rd, first weekend of April. That to me is like the perfect place to put WrestleMania. That way we're not like waiting so long and allowing WWE to just artificially stretch out episodes because they have to, like this one, because this one was just bad. It's disappointing that neither women's mid-card champions are getting a title defense on the WrestleMania stage. These titles could really use that exposure, and the division needs major elevation. The titles in the division right now with WWE's booking, let me clarify that, with how they've been booked, do not deserve to be on the WrestleMania stage, and that's a disservice. They should have been built better to deserve the spot on the WrestleMania stage. Like, I look at the division that's chasing after the women's US championship, and it is barren. It's been Michin, and now barely now they've introduced Zelina Vega. When I look at the women's intercontinental championship picture, Lyra hasn't really had a feud. She's had like matches that have been good, but they've not really developed like an actual storyline or really helped develop like a moving cog of the Women's Intercontinental Championship picture. It just sort of seems to be on the show for the sake of being on the show. And with them not being on WrestleMania, I sincerely hope that they open their eyes and look at the talent that they have in that division and realize that they can actually make something really worth watching here. I don't get it. How can they figure it out on NXT and not figure it out on the main roster? I don't know. There's no excuse for them not to have the SmackDown tag titles on the Mania card after the great year that they've had. They could have easily had War Raiders versus New Day at the Raw after Mania, considering we just saw that matchup last week anyways. Okay, yeah, that's the last little bit that a lot of people aren't talking about. Like, we're getting a Mania match that's a rematch of something that literally just happened. Like, just happened. Sure, it ended in shenanigans, disqualification, but the match wasn't that good. And two, go back and watch it. WWE not only hasn't cared about the division leading up until this WrestleMania match, they didn't care about that match. They used that match pretty much the entire time to just promote whatever thing that Tony Hinchcliffe was peddling to us, this comedy special, the roast of WrestleMania. They basically just used their match as a big platform to advertise other stuff, not actually care about the match that was happening in front of our very eyes. So I ask again, if WWE has seemingly showed to us that they do not care, why should we, the fans, care? I feel like the main event got kind of messed up with the Gauntlet match. I mean, 10-ish minutes. Usually we're having like 15 to 20 minute matches. The pacing just felt rushed. Oh, I think that you hit it on the head. That Gauntlet match went on for like the better part of like 40 minutes, which shows just how impressive Lyra and Bayley truly are. Again, I mentioned this before. It was the silver lining is that we got the best performers in the ring for the longest amount of time, even if it was the traditional trope of, will they overcome the odds? But here, like, it went way too long. And again, I'm not opposed to the women getting that amount of time. I am opposed to a dead division getting that amount of time this close to WrestleMania, and in turn hurting some of the other stuff that happened in the show. Like you said, this 10-ish minute main event. Rey Fenix is a gem to watch in the ring. He's going to be a great asset, much like Penta for the WWE. I think that Rey Fenix has been fantastic. I do question what is the purpose of debuting Rey Fenix before WrestleMania, because he's not on the WrestleMania card, and it doesn't look like he's going to find his way onto the WrestleMania card. I think he's going to be on the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Sure, great. I think that they could have done what they've done with Rey Fenix so far, which has been two excellent matches against Nathan Frazier and now recently with Berto. I feel like you could have just started that after WrestleMania, because I'm kind of disappointed that Rey Fenix isn't on the Mania card, and maybe it's my fault for expecting it, but I don't think it's that crazy to expect it considering you debuted him before WrestleMania. I feel like Cody's promo didn't really do anything for the feud. I felt like he just told us things we knew, and it definitely didn't help build the match in any further. It is tough to build a match when John Cena isn't there, when John Cena's heel turn and John Cena's motivations are the entire catalyst for this storyline. John Cena is the one that turned heel. John Cena is the one that sold his soul. John Cena is the one that aligned himself with The Rock. John Cena is the one that says he wants to take the championship away. So John Cena is literally the driving factor of this feud. So if he's not there, it's really difficult for Cody Rhodes to really have promos that really further develop the storyline. But I have to disagree with you. I actually think that this promo is really good, and it really set the expectation as to what Cody Rhodes' motivations going into this WrestleMania match are, because so far all we've gotten is John Cena, John Cena, John Cena's motivations. That's it. What were Cody Rhodes' motivations as a champion, aside from just getting revenge on the Cena that took him out at Elimination Chamber? We got them. He is here to stop history so that history can continue to be made in the WWE. And that to me was a really strong message. Trying to stop 17, trying to stop Cena from taking this title away from the WWE and preventing others that might come after John Cena from creating a history and a legacy of their own. That to me is a good, honorable babyface thing to fight for. So I disagree with you. I thought that the promo did maybe not advance the feud between Cena and Cody Rhodes, but I really think that it highlighted why Cody Rhodes winning is important. Drew should have stuck with the eye patch. In my opinion, it looks great on him. Could have built his already amazing character up and just make him way more dangerous than he already is. I personally would have liked eye patch Drew McIntyre a little bit longer. It kind of felt like the reveal of like, oh, I don't need the eye patch was a little bit underwhelming considering he barely had the eye patch on at all. This was the first time we actually saw him live in SmackDown wearing the actual eye patch. Maybe like removing the eye patch at WrestleMania. I feel like an eye patch entrance at WrestleMania would have been so sick. I feel like they should have kept the eye patch on until at least WrestleMania. Get Gail Kim into creative after that mess of a women's division tonight. You know what? I'm kind of down for that For those that don't know, Gail Kim was one of the producers of TNA Wrestling, who helped build and develop the fantastic women's knockout division in TNA that for many years was considered like the best treated, best booked, best women's division in professional wrestling, and much of it was under Gail Kim. And Gail Kim was recently fired alongside a bunch of executives from TNA, seemingly randomly without cause. So that means if Gail Kim is available and WWE actually wants to bring in somebody that already has experience developing and booking amazing women's mid-cards and women's main event scenes, get Gail Kim in the door, please. That was easily the worst SmackDown of the year and the worst in a long time. A week before WrestleMania, and that episode had no direction, no hype, and absolutely nothing worth remembering. As somebody that usually doesn't complain, that was really bad. I've already complained the entire episode, but I'm gonna go on a whim and say that I think I agree. I think that was the worst episode of Friday Night SmackDown of 2025 so far. And when you're this close to WrestleMania, I don't think that you can be producing these stinkers. I really don't think that you can afford these types of episodes this close to WrestleMania. Imagine The Rock bringing somebody from New Japan over to help Cena win the match versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41. It would be an all-time moment. That's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think that what you fantasy booked is going to happen. I think it's interesting that The Rock is wearing a New Japan shirt. New Japan, who historically has aligned with WWE's competition in AEW, being repped on one of the biggest social media pages on the planet, on Dwayne Johnson's social media pages. I don't think that that's an accident. I don't think that that just sort of went under the radar, because The Rock doesn't control his own Instagram. I can't imagine he does. He probably has a team that probably would have told him, brother, you can't be wearing that shirt. And yet here he is. It went through all of the checks and balances. And I gotta imagine that this is intentional. Are we gonna see something between WWE and New Japan? I mean, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. WWE's already doing some sort of collaboration with a Japanese organization in Noah. So maybe it's a possibility, but it just feels like New Japan and AEW are so intertwined that it just feels difficult to imagine at the moment. Drew wants to be the GOAT Tongaloa so bad. Well, wouldn't you? I actually like Solo versus Randy. It gets Solo his first WrestleMania match and Randy can get his win. So we talked about this. It makes sense. It's just, I don't care for it. It's just that a lot of people don't care for it. And we've mentioned the fact that it's not Solo's fault. It's WWE's fault for putting him on the back burner on this road to WrestleMania. And now they need to all of a sudden polish him up and make him a good enough present for Randy Orton. Here you go. But I do like the fact that this could lead to Solo having his first WrestleMania match. It kind of dawned on me that he hasn't had a WrestleMania match, that the last two WrestleManias, he's just sort of been kind of like Bloodline Rules entrant, where he comes in to thumb Cody Rhodes at some point or another. And I do think, Jacob Fatu is getting his own WrestleMania match. Why not Solo? Even though it's not the sexiest option, sure, he has earned it. WWE should retire these tag titles or send them back to NXT as soon as possible. There's almost no tag teams on the women's side, and it often causes underwhelming storylines. It doesn't matter who will win or lose at WrestleMania if the division simply barely has two proper tag teams. I think like two proper tag teams is like even a stretch, because like the proper tag teams that they have, they don't even like give time to them in any way, shape, or form, which is just ridiculous to me. Down on NXT, however, they got like a flourishing tag team division over there that they've seemingly been building to go for the women's like TNA tag team championships over there. But yeah, at this point, you already have like the women's mid-card belts. Let that what you use to build the women's mid-card, not these directionless, lifeless titles that are just sort of being used to put women together seemingly randomly for the sake of doing it. It's a shame, but like with the current status of the women's tag team division, I don't think these titles would be missed. Let me clarify, missed by fans. Maybe they'll be missed by the actual talent, because this is an avenue to get screen time, but like it's just not it, man. All right, folks, this was a very whiny, complaining episode of Wrestling Hot Takes, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.